Welcome to our review for Avengers Endgame. I'm going to get the name right because I kept saying End War, leading up to the movie constantly. This is not Tom Clancy. This is Avengers Endgame. So, long movie.
Yes.
Long movie.
Yes, it was very long.
Who wants to start? Alex?
Nah.
Me?
You start.
Good movie. Before we get into details, and this will be a non-spoiler review like everything else, but before we get into any details, I will say, if you are somebody who has been following this series of movies, like the MCU, the build-up, you have to see this movie.
It's an end of era.
Right?
It's huge.
Yes. No matter what I say about it, good or bad, you have to see it. It'd be like not reading the last chapter in a book that you've been reading. And I will say, in that regard, I think that they did... I'll get into details about individual aspects, good or bad, as we go. But overall, as a closure point for one era, which, again, will still continue with newer movies and different characters, but, like, the closing of that chapter 1, I thought it was a very well done closure point and had a lot of fan service for that and just was a good way to go out with this series of movies.
Yeah. Wow, do they know how to do, like, epic battles. Like, just the scenery alone, how big the scale was, the scope, all the heroes, the weaving in and out of different groups of them, like, that was nuts.
They had a lot to handle, even outside the battles. They had a lot to handle, because you have so many characters... Yeah. Both all the ones that you introduced way back at the start, like Iron Man, Captain America, and so on, as well as all the heroes that you've introduced since.
Even side characters and stuff. It's crazy the amount of people in this.
And potential new ones. Like, you have so many characters. You have some, and you have some that you are probably going to go forward, and be big ones going forward in the next... whatever they do next, which we really don't know at this point.
I do want to say, obviously, with such a large ensemble cast, you can make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think that what they didn't do wrong was it felt like every character got the right amount of camera time for the story, for their arc. It didn't feel like, oh, hey, why are they not addressing him or her? Why are they not, like, it felt like everybody was given their moments, they had their role to play, and, like, it just fit really, really well.
Yeah.
Which is difficult, even for a 3-hour movie, when you have that much to cover.
For sure.
3 hours, yeah. We got an intermission, though.
Oh, you got an intermission?
Our theater
I had to sit through the whole
broke
thing.
down.
Yeah.
Like, we got to
unintentional.
We got
so
to
like pee break.
we got to a scene about 2 hours and 15 minutes into the movie, and the video cut out, but the audio was still going for like 5 minutes until like the theater manager came in and they rewound it and fixed it. And like, people were freaking out and chanting refund, but it was just like, just go to the bathroom and come back. It was literally like 10 minutes until they got it back on track, and it was like. You know, you want to worry about when's a good time to go to the bathroom during the movie?
That's a good time.
That was a good time. So, but I will say, beyond that, because I didn't even use the intermission to go to the bathroom, I sat in the seat the whole time. I never felt like the movie was too long. 3 hours, and it went by very quickly.
Yeah. And, I mean, part of it was that everything they were doing was important. Like, you didn't have...
Was it, though?
The only slow part, I would say, was actually the beginning.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was kind of on purpose because you're building to this crescendo, which is the end, right?
I thought there were a few parts that were just a little too over the top on callbacks to previous things that I felt did not need to be there. I mean, you can't really say they're making this movie for a new fan, right? Like, this is for people who have been following along or have at least watched...
From 2008, from
Iron
Man.
Have at least watched the previous Avengers movie.
Sure,
right?
okay,
Like, you could say this is the end, but it's definitely a two-parter. This isn't for somebody new, like at least the two-parter. And there was parts that were even rehashes from the first of these movies, which I'll probably call wrong as well, Infinite War or Infinite Gauntlet or...
Infinity War?
Infinity War was the first of the...
I can't get these names right. But yeah, there was a few too many callbacks at the beginning.
Yeah.
After that, they kind of did away with it and it was fine. But to me, I felt like that could have shaved off like a good 15 minutes and kept it a little bit tighter. But it just, like, that part was actually one of the negatives that I can say was, again, if you're not building this for a new fan, because clearly you would have had to at least see the last one, there was a few wasted moments there.
Okay.
I do have one other big negative, and it has to do with the plot. But I can't talk about it because we don't do spoilers.
Yeah, and
I think there's one thing we can include because I don't feel it is a spoiler.
Sure.
Because
we can always edit if it is.
If it is, yeah. Because they alluded to this very heavily, but the idea of time travel.
Oh man.
Okay.
No.
So
that is where my problems were. There was way too many plot holes
continuity
with that.
areas. Yeah, exactly. That's all we're gonna say. Like, we're not gonna go at any points. But I mean, if you didn't figure out that there was gonna be some kind of time travel, I mean, time Infinity Stone by itself already, you know, we can't help you there.
and to anybody who's watching, know that is a big problem to me. In fact, it will impact my final score of the movie.
Absolutely.
So, but let's because we don't talk spoilers and we can't talk about it. If you suspend disbelief on the plot holes with time travel, the story was perfectly fine.
Yes. I think my only gripe with the story has more to do with the outings of certain characters. I don't know if they were the right outings for all of them.
At some point,
again, I don't want to go into anymore because it's really hard not to say anything. Yeah. But like
that is the challenge.
That's the
of
best
doing
way to say it. Is
reviews,
that we know that, you know, there's heroes that are going to move forward, and there's heroes now just because of filming that are going to be done, right?
Well, I mean, if you follow outside of the theater, you've already read like these characters or this not character, these actors are no longer signing to do movies. You know they're not going to be back.
Exactly. So obviously, the movie wanted to clean up all these loose ends, and we have outings for certain of those characters.
And one of them is absolutely flawed, and I'm sure it's probably the same one that you're thinking of.
Yes.
But anyways, it's just terrible.
That's the most I'll say about story. Otherwise, yes, I agree. This, again, has to do a little bit with the time travel, but the story itself was really good. I love Thanos as a villain still.
Great job. Absolutely great job.
Like, Josh Brolin deserves so much credit for this.
Yeah, Cable, man. Seriously.
I mean, he was great as Cable, too.
Like, how did they get him to jump away from Deadpool and play Thanos? Because that was the actor, right? Cable played Thanos.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other characters that really stood out to you guys? I gotta say, to me, since the third Thor movie, Hemsworth his comedy chops are just so well refined. Yeah. And I honestly don't know what this like character or series of movies would have been without that drastic shift that he made in Thor 3 to become comedic relief, essentially, because he was just hilarious.
Going to that, I will agree absolutely. Thor was phenomenal for his comedy. The one comedy that I felt was a little bit weaker, and I'm taking, I guess, his role from Thor Ragnarok, but I thought Hulk or Bruce Banner. Like, for me, I really like Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. I just didn't like him in this movie that much. Not as much as Ragnarok, for example.
Yeah, he was funny in Ragnarok.
Exactly.
There was a couple funny moments with this time.
Yes.
But I think I can see there was a few where it didn't bother me, but I could tell they were jokes that fell flat on their face. I will say, if there's one negative when it comes to characters, and I hate that I'm going to say this, is Captain Marvel. To me, was almost, again, a throwaway, and like her role should have been, in my opinion, much more significant.
Yes.
And even just watching previews and trailers, I expected more of her in this movie.
Yeah. Especially with the build-up from the Captain Marvel movie, right? You have that build-up. You have basically 2 movies ending with the scenes. First, the Infinity War ending with the scene with Nick Fury calling her, and then her own movie ending with the scene with her showing up.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this... I mean, because she's such a powerful hero, you expect, oh, she's going to be huge for this.
Yeah.
But she was very underutilized. And it felt like certain other heroes were underutilized, too.
Like who?
Maybe more of the side characters.
A lot of the side characters.
Well, they were side characters.
Yeah. But
Disney, Marvel, what are you doing? This is my Brie Larson. What are you doing to me?
I agree with Alex, though. Yes, that well, and you, I guess, because we all talked about it. But yeah,
it did more as a closure point than as a starting point, because that's the thing. You know that this is the starting point for all the heroes,
and she's one of the new heroes.
All the new heroes like Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
but they didn't really do much for that.
No,
they made it more of they did a good job with a closure point, but they almost ignored the fact that this series is going to keep going after this, right?
I want to give props to Jeremy Renner. I thought he did a great job in this one.
Yep. Very emotional. Really good.
And like after being absent in the last one, to come in kind of, I mean, obviously like they alluded to the character, there was references, but he wasn't in the last one. But he came in and he did a great job. I think he did a great job. His character was, you know, the transformation to Ronin, which, I mean, it's in the trailer. Yeah. So if you don't know that he went from Hawkeye to Ronin, well, I guess
sorry.
Well, hey, if you're not watching the trailers to see that, you're not watching a review on YouTube, right? Yeah. But the transformation, the emotion he showed, the range, I thought he carried a lot of the weight of the emotional side of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think he did a great job. And I just wanted to give a kudos to that, for sure.
I think the movie, especially the starting point of it, the first hour, did a really good job of showing the sort of despair and hopelessness of the situation.
And like it didn't already seem hopeless enough at the end of the last one. Let's make it even more hopeless.
Yeah. Like, generally when I think of a lot of the other superhero movies, even the really good ones that Marvel has done, a lot of them don't really tug like emotionally at you.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like they're great action movies, great for that type of thing, but they aren't the most emotional movies. But between this and Infinity War, I think they did a fantastic job of that.
I want to touch back on what you just said and what you said earlier. The fight scenes were fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like that is like this is the grand opus. Like the especially the final giant battle was just edge of your seat. I don't want to use these like key phrases too much, but like it really was constantly things going on, but they made it that you could follow it very well. It was exciting, it was entertaining, and it was the type of large scale event that you need for this send-off.
It's very much a cheering for the good guys too, right? Yeah. That moment when it starts, you're just like, go good guys! Like you just feel that energy, you know?
Yeah.
Really well done.
And it helps that they had fights throughout the movie.
Yes.
Like, especially for a movie that long, having
the intertwined storylines.
Having good pacing for something that complex and long was absolutely necessary. Like, this movie would have been a disaster if they'd done what a lot of superhero movies do and push all the action to the last chunk, right?
That would have made it a lot tougher. Yeah. Like, you're talking 3-hour movie, you have to keep pacing in mind, and they did a great job. And that's part of the reason why it really doesn't feel like it is 3 hours. Like, it is definitely a long movie, but you're not sitting there thinking, like, my God, this is just never ending. Like, it was... Like, I rewatched Infinity War, yeah. Like, just the day before to be kind of caught up. Mm-hmm. And again, not that it wasn't enjoyable, but I could definitely feel that was like 2.5 hours, right? Like, it felt, this is 2.5 hours. This one just flew by.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I don't think there's too much more we can talk about without getting really in-depth into spoilers. Because, obviously, the biggest thing... Like... There's no point talking about special effects at this point. Like, they've got that nailed down. There's no problem. Nothing there. But without getting into plot, you can't do spoilers. So I think it's just final scores here.
Okay.
Sure.
Josh, you start us off this time.
So
I never start us off.
I know. You always like to end.
Hey, you run these things. You can decide who
There
goes.
You go. I'm going to give it a 7. Now, it seems low... But it is because of those like little plot holes and stuff that just took away from the overall.
I was gonna be
no. But don't get me wrong. I agree with you. Like we talked about at the beginning. Like you have to see this movie. It is a good movie. A 7 is not a bad score.
No, for us 5 is average. So a 7 is above average. But
It's just like, there are some things that really irked me when I thought about it at the end. Like, during the moment, great. But after I saw the movie, I'm like, wait a minute. What if, and if they did, and what if, and that bothered me.
I'm definitely with you. If I had to give a score right as I was walking out of the theater versus once I've had time to really let it sink in and think about those plot holes, 2 different scores.
For sure. Absolutely.
Alexis.
I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Whoa! Jeez, you're usually the toughest critic.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I really enjoyed it. I was actually surprised by quite a bit from what they've done because I've seen a few different ways they've handled the Thanos storyline, right? And so
his storyline was so well done.
So I actually didn't really know what they were going to do, which way they were going to go with it. So I was a bit surprised and interested with it. I did kind of roll my eyes a bit with the time travel thing because that's something that's always so difficult to get.
Oh, we're going to talk about that once we stop recording.
Once it goes quick.
And you know, I'm not a huge fan of those types of things.
Yeah.
But I did find the way they did it, even if we go away from like the actual story thing, I actually enjoyed the way they did it. I enjoyed
they
the
contradict themselves with it.
One minor positive was that they were talking about all the tropes in previous time travel movies, and that was really funny.
But they contradict themselves.
I agree. Yeah. We'll talk about it after.
We'll talk about it after. All right.
I really like the fight scenes. I don't think it's the best of the Marvel movies. I actually liked Infinity War a bit more. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I did think that as a closure point and for everything they had to do, I think they did about as good a job as they could have done doing it. And I thought the acting in it was some of the best, like in series that were already very well acted. Mm-hmm. And you saw how much some of these characters have grown, how much some of these actors have grown. And it was just really impressive to me. And yeah, like a 3-hour movie that flies by. That's impressive to me.
I thought I was going to be the low man with an 8 out of 10. And honestly, the majority of that is the plot holes with the time travel.
Yeah.
And if one of our viewers sees me on the street and has already seen the movie and wants to chat about it, I'll tell you exactly why that is. But I can't go into it. This is spoiler free. But that is entirely why it loses those points. And maybe a little what they did to my Brie Larson. But other than that, the 8 out of 10 is well-deserved. It is a good movie. It flies by. Great action scenes. Fantastic acting. But for something that is supposed to be this giant event, and if you look at it, all the sales numbers from the box office, all the 10 out of 10 scores that apparently people don't follow the plot for. It is a giant event.
Yeah.
I think the writers should have taken a little bit more time because it's not like they didn't have the opportunity to think of a better way to do this and not put in so many blatant plot holes. Mm-hmm. But that's it. 8 out of 10.
Okay.
So that's our review. That's what we thought. I'm sure people will disagree with us because there are way too many advocates of the 10 out of 10 out there. If that's you, let us know why. That comment section on YouTube is just begging to be used. Until next time, live in the real world, play in a Pixel one. Hey, did you like that video? If you did, be sure to let us know by clicking the like button and leaving a comment. If you want to be first in line for any new content, be sure to subscribe to our channel and then hit up our Facebook page. The link's in the description below to see what's coming up next.